Hey everybody, this is Josh Hunter. We are up at North Longmont at St. Vrain Realty, and today we have somebody special on the line that's going to call in and towards the middle of this video here in a second. They're going to tell their story about something, and this video we wanted to do on iBuyers. There's been a lot of talk in the marketplace about iBuyers, about all these virtual companies coming in, and some of them not even virtual companies. Some of them are actual companies that have been around a while, even in the real estate realm, that are now having kind of instant purchase products. And I guess we lump all of that in right now to the iBuyer. And so when we're going out on listing presentations, we're now getting these questions from these sellers. What is this iBuyer? Hey, I looked and abc.com will offer to buy my home. Tell me more about that. What's that? Should I do this, etc.? Well, we have somebody that we approached that just recently went through an iBuyer transaction, not where they purchased one from an iBuyer, but where they actually said, clicked on the thing, buy my house, make me an offer. And they actually went through the whole thing from closing. And she was willing to share her story on this, and not in a way to specifically bash the iBuyers in any way, shape, or form, but to really tell the story of, for her, why it made sense for her to do. And then as the process and transaction went down a little bit further, to kind of share some of the things that maybe she didn't quite know up front, or things she wished she would have known. And then at the moral of the story, we'll hear from her at the end if she would ever go forward with another iBuyer offer or anything like that again. So stay tuned. It's a little long, but we do hope that you go ahead and listen to the whole thing there, because if you've ever been curious about what the iBuyer is or how the transaction or process actually works, this is pretty eye-opening to some of the costs and some of the time frames that are involved in it.
All right, so we are here with who we were going to talk to today. And I wanted to go ahead and let you introduce yourself and kind of let us know who you are and where you're located.
I'm Jordan. I am located in Stapleton in Denver, Colorado.
All right,
Um,
Stapleton, that's north end of Denver.
correct.
All right,
And then
cool.
northeast. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. You like it out there?
I love it.
Good, good,
I don't
good,
think I'll
good.
ever leave.
Right, and I think you have kids too, so
Yep.
you
I
love the
have,
parks and lots of stuff out and about.
yes,
Lots of,
lots of parks, lots of walking trails, lots of retail stuff, food, all sorts of that. You don't have to leave the neighborhood too far to
cool.
get what you need.
Well, wonderful. Well, as I mentioned earlier, and why people are listening to this on here is that you have recently completed a transaction with an iBuyer. And we are, since there's several of them out there, we decided that we're not gonna mention one. There's several. They all work fairly similar, so we'll just call them the iBuyer here. But we're curious right off the bat, kind of what was your background and everything with your situation that led you to contacting an iBuyer.
Um, well, when I was originally getting ready to sell my house, as you mentioned, have kids. I have two young kids,
Mm-hmm.
at the time, like 18-month-old and a 3-year-old, and then 3 dogs. And the idea of having to show my house
So your home always
was,
looks like a show home, and
yeah,
there's never any,
exactly.
yeah.
There's never any mess. It's always perfect.
Okay.
Yes. And so because of that, I initially had reached out to the iBuyers to avoid kind of traditionally selling my house, literally just to avoid the showings and the chaos of that.
Okay.
Um, and then I
And so
was not,
oh, you're good. Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
I was going to
Uh,
say, so you did end up going though with the traditional method of hiring a realtor, having the property marketed, open houses, all of that. So did you circle back into an iBuyer
I
or?
did. So
Okay.
initially, when I had reached out, I was not super thrilled with the offers. And
Okay.
so then I decided to proceed with a traditional kind of sale. So I got a realtor. Exactly. We listed it traditionally, did all the showings with all the dogs and the kids. And then we were building a new house. And so as we were getting kind of towards that deadline, the old house was still not selling. And
Okay.
so I started to reach back out to the iBuyers just because I felt a little bit backed into a corner of, we were either gonna lose the new house and the money we had already put into it, or risk if we were gonna continue kind of the traditional way.
Okay.
So I reached back out to the iBuyers and then did end up going with an iBuyer because of sort of the last minute crunch deadline. I didn't really have another option.
Gotcha. Okay. So you reach back out, bring them back in, obviously let your realtor know and kind of do that stuff there. So like early on, what was that process like with like, I mean, do you have one person you talk to, or is communication good, or how does that work? I mean, are they easy to
Yes.
work with in the beginning?
Yes, they were. I remember calling on like a Sunday saying I really wanted to talk to someone. The guy who was kind of in charge of mine was out on Mondays, but they had someone else reach out to me. And then the gentleman that we worked with got back to me first thing Tuesday morning. There was a ton of communication and it was very pretty seamless. I think, like I said, I called them on a Sunday. I think they had their inspector person out by like Thursday to do the walkthrough. And then I
Okay.
had an offer there shortly thereafter.
And that was like an initial offer, if I remember correctly from our first talk, correct? Like
Correct. So they give
so
you,
tell me about that, because it sounds like everything's great and this is perfect, but when you and I talked, there were some things that weren't so good about the transaction. And I guess did that kind of start to show itself now, or like after they had the inspector come through and give you an offer?
so they initially gave me an offer sort of based on I had to submit some pictures of the house, and
Hmm.
then they gave me an initial offer which seemed fine.
Okay.
And then it was after the inspection happened. Um, about 48 hours after that, they gave me a final offer
Oh,
that
okay. So one's kind of
included
like, here's what we're thinking, here's our intention, and then they do an inspection and say, okay, now here's what we're really going to do.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, and that offer after the inspection is a final offer that never changed throughout the once we
Okay.
signed.
So give me an idea, how far do you guys think? And I know you had a realtor, so they probably had some thoughts on this too. How far off do you guys feel like your initial offer and then your final offer were off from like market value of, what, given you, obviously your home was on the market for a while, it sounded like, so it probably needed some sort of price like reduction is my guess. But how far off do you guys think both of those numbers were realistically?
So the original offer that they gave me over the phone based on the photos that I had given them
Hmm.
was, if I'm remembering right, it was just under 600,000. So like 598,
Okay.
594, someplace there.
Okay.
Which, as you mentioned, after our house had been on the market for, several weeks,
Mhm.
and that seemed fairly reasonable. Um,
Okay. So what were you
it
listed at
wasn't.
on the
We were.
market
I
there? Like,
initially at the time that I had them
yeah.
come. I think my house was at like 618.
Okay, got it. Okay, so 20 grand under that,
So
we'll say.
again, yeah. So not
Yep. Okay.
terribly far off.
Okay.
So then they, like I said, later that week they had the an inspector come out and do a walkthrough.
Mhm.
Um, and that was on like a Thursday or Friday. And they then came back with a final offer that they emailed to me like 48 hours after that.
Okay.
And that offer was 580.
580. Okay. Okay. So
So
another, call it 15 to 18 below that.
exactly, which
Okay.
was a little bit frustrating because it
Yeah.
was somewhat off from what they, I mean, that's a significant amount off from what they had
Yeah.
initially quoted
No, absolutely. Yeah.
or
Okay.
offered.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, so that's kind of where, yeah, that was kind of how that process went and the numbers
Okay.
there.
Okay. Perfect. And you mentioned the inspection process. I mean, I'm sure they
Mhm.
did a full home inspection.
They
Um,
did.
and kind of
Um,
credited for this, that, and the other thing. I mean, was that somewhat you've bought in a home before? I mean, was that fairly reasonable credits? Or I
you
know
know,
probably not, because we're talking 15, 18,000. But
yeah, so they sent the specifics with
oh, okay.
they sent with the offer, the total repairs, which they had quoted us that it's like anywhere between about $1,000 to $3,000 in repairs.
Okay.
Although I had heard just anecdotally some people that have done this where the fees were a lot higher.
Got it. Okay.
So I was concerned about that because, as I mentioned, we have 3 dogs, we had 2 kids. This was not a show home, so there was certainly some things that could have been worked on. But when we got the initial when we got the offer, the total repairs they quoted us was about $1,500.
Okay.
And so that was fine, and they did break down everything that they were charging us for.
Okay, got it. And so that's how you got from that 595 or 598 you mentioned down to the 580.
So no, the 580 was their offer, and then there was an additional 1,500 that would come off of that.
I understand. Okay,
Yep.
okay. So then the inspection. Okay, I'm with you now. So we're down a bit from your list price. How flexible, I guess, is my next question. Were they with you guys at the tail end of the sale? And I asked this because I realized you guys mentioned that you were purchasing another home, 3 dogs, 2 kids. How did the end of the transaction go as far as flexibility with that? I mean, did they let you stay in the home like until closing, or how did that work?
Yes. So there was 2 options that we could have done. So you can either you can close. They're very flexible with when you want to close. We actually changed it a couple times leading up as we were sort of figuring things out. But they were very flexible for when we wanted to close, but they required a walkthrough to be done at least 24 hours prior to closing. And during the walkthrough, your stuff had to be the house had to be empty.
Okay.
Or you could pay, I think it was $5,000, like give them you could pay $5,000 to stay in the house 4 to 5 days after closing to allow time. And then they would do the walkthrough with your stuff in it. So we opted to do the walkthrough ahead of time. So there was definitely,
as I would expect most people would.
Yeah.
That's making your house a $30,000 a month rental if you're making that much.
Exactly.
So,
And so that was difficult with kids and dogs and having to have our stuff in a U-Haul for 48 hours just sitting there.
So it was either one of those 2 choices. There wasn't I guess in a typical realtor to realtor situation of negotiating, hey, can we get 2 days here for $500, or can they stay in the home for a couple days after closing for free? Or there wasn't any of that. It's kind of option 1 or option 2.
Correct. There was the only Understood. 2 options. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess depending on where you are in your life, that's either A-okay or completely terrible.
Right. Right.
Okay. Well, do you mind if I know you mentioned you were going to share some numbers, and you did share some sales prices and where they're at. Do you mind sharing a few more? And the reason I ask is that people that we've talked to about this have brought up questions about these things, because I hear they don't charge a commission, but they're charging, I think they call them service fees. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What do you mind sharing kind of, what?
No, not at all. Because that was certainly the most surprising and difficult part of, the most surprising and difficult part of all of this. So they are very upfront about it, which is nice. When they sent us the initial offer, the offer came through, it said what they were offering, the service charge, the repair adjustments, and then estimated closing costs. And so we did have the number that, the cash we would walk away of, the estimated cash.
Estimated net sheet. Yeah. Yep. Very typical.
Yeah. So that was nice to know ahead of time, but the service charge that we got charged was 7.9%, which came out to $45,000, $45,800.
So almost 8%. I mean, let's just say that's 8%. Yeah. So that was an 8% service fee. Okay. And then given that your home is still listed, if your home is listed and they do this, I mean, I assume no matter what you've negotiated with your broker, whether it's, a low price or a regular rate or whatever, you're still obligated to that as well. Like they're not paying the realtor commissions because you're the seller, correct?
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So I mean,
Exactly.
conceivably, I'm just looking. I mean, somebody could pay 10 or 12% here
Easily,
in some
because,
cases. Okay.
we had used a realtor, and so there was, yeah,
Okay.
easily you could be at 10 to 12%.
Okay, interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that. I had heard about those service fees, and there's speculation on how much they are, and we knew they were high, but that's a pretty hefty. I'm going to call it a commission, but that's a pretty
Yeah,
hefty fee. Okay,
agreed.
and you guys, I guess while we're on fees too, you guys are in an HOA, correct?
Correct.
So how do things work with, like, because I know, and we sell a lot of homes in HOAs, and there's transfer fees and there's reserves and there's prorations on those. I mean,
Yes.
are they pretty cut and dry? Because I know we have purchased some homes from these iBuyers in the past, so we've been on the purchasing
Hmm.
end of buying from an iBuyer that did exactly what you guys did, sold to an iBuyer, and they were very directive on, like, well, you're buying this and you are required for this fee. Is there anything like that with you guys, or do you have flexibility?
Exactly. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
So there was no, negotiation of, well, since we're paying $45,000 in this, could you cover the transfer fee? So we had to pay all
You
of
paid
that.
it. Oh,
Yep. So
okay.
we paid the transfer fee. We paid for, like the, there was so many different like little fees. I think that's probably normal, like water assessment, things like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
we paid all of that. We paid the HOA transfer fee.
Wow. Okay. Do you remember
Mhm.
offhand? And I don't know if you have your closing statement, but like, how about like the closing fees for like the title company? Like, I know traditionally we'll do like, let's say a company, title company will charge $400. We'll try to negotiate that, the buyer pays half, seller pays half, title insurance, things like that. I mean, did they require you as a seller to pay for
Yeah,
title insurance? Okay. Yeah.
they
So
did.
there's
Yep.
another
So
easy, I
we
mean,
paid,
I'm just
yeah, and I'm
guessing, but there's
actually,
another 1,800, $1,800.
you're right on the money. I'm actually looking at it right
Okay.
now. And our kind of escrow title charges from this closing were, yeah, about just over $1,500.
Okay. Okay. Pretty close there. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess moral of the story of what we've heard so far, this iBuyer situation definitely serves a need for people. If you are, and I'm recapping from what you've told me of what I'm understanding. If you are in a rush to leave, or if you are in a situation where your house isn't moving, or in a location where it's not moving, there's a good chance that they will still come in and purchase your home. But like everything, that's going to be at a cost. Um, is kind of what it seems like. Is
Absolutely.
there anything else you would share about, like, I guess, your experience, or anything that I know I kind of had some questions we rolled down there, but anything that you don't feel we covered that you feel like is important?
Yeah, one thing that was frustrating to me is we once we got the offer, we had, I think, 72 hours to sign it, or else it would be void and we would start
Yeah.
the whole process all over again. So in that
Okay.
72 hours, as you can imagine, we had a lot of questions. There was a lot of back and forth with the gentleman that we were working with the
Hmm.
iBuyer. And then it was, as soon as we signed that document, it was almost impossible to get a hold of him. We had questions about whether or not what we could take with us, what we needed to leave, that required like 3 or 4 emails repeatedly saying, I still haven't heard from you, could you get back to us before we would hear?
Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
that was incredibly frustrating, that sort of as soon as we signed the deal, we
Okay.
sort of lost communication.
That's interesting. So I
um,
think I asked you in the early part, you said communication was great. So as soon as they had you essentially under contract, it was just almost like you went into a queue or something, I guess. Yeah. Interesting.
exactly, it felt like I just moved to the very bottom of, the list
Okay.
of,
We got them. Let's put them down here now.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was difficult. And, I would send emails with like 4 questions and then no answer, no answer. I would finally hear back and it would be like one response to one question. And so it was, the communication, especially towards the end, was really frustrating. The lack of communication, I should
And
say.
it sounds like you're paying enough I mean, with all your fees and
Mm-hmm.
everything. I know you said 45 in services, but I mean, you're probably at 50 or just over, in
Yeah.
total costs. You seem like communication might be a little bit more of a priority for that. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I
And so
wasn't aware
that
of that.
was,
Thanks for sharing
yeah.
that.
yeah, so that was really frustrating. That's one thing that comes to mind. Yeah. Oh, and then, oh yeah. So, gosh, I can't believe I forgot about this. The other huge frustration I had
Hmm.
was that, you know, the day that we had the walkthrough with
Hmm.
the iBuyers, I wasn't able to be there, but my um, parents were able to be, who
Okay.
I trust with that. They were fine. They were, and which the iBuyer was fine with. They said that I did not have to be present because I did have to work and I couldn't get the day off.
Okay.
So they did a walkthrough. I had, the place was, they asked it to be broom clean. I had like scrubbed the baseboards. Everything was really in a
A
really
little
good
more than
place.
broom. Yeah.
It
Okay.
was, yeah. I specifically asked if we needed to get the carpet cleaned, and they said no, that was included in our, in the service fee
Okay.
charge, or in the repair fees.
Oh,
So
okay.
I did not get that cleaned. And so when the gentleman left after doing the walkthrough, he told my parents, everything looks great. This has been great doing business with you. And then when we received like the final paperwork from the iBuyer, they had
Hmm.
withheld $5,000.
Oh, like
And
five
this
thousand additional.
is additional. And so this is now the day we were supposed to close on Friday. This is the day of closing that I'm hearing this, that they're withholding $5,000. And
Wow.
they said it was for property that was left behind, which we had left nothing other than trash in the trash cans in the driveway. And
Which
then
you can't do anything about until trash day.
exactly. And then the supplies, like the paint, the spare tiles that come with the house, the spare, floorboards.
So the
That
normal stuff
is,
that the normal
that
stuff that people usually ask you to leave in a traditional sale, and
exactly.
oh,
And
you
that
got
I
to.
would certainly want.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like you got another little one up.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. No, I
Um,
think it's great because this relates to a lot of people. A lot of people are
yeah,
looking at these iBuyers. A lot of people are talking about all this stuff, and a lot of us have kids. So I mean,
yeah,
we're totally.
exactly.
This is an expected
Real
interview.
life. um, yes.
Yeah.
And
Pretty soon
so,
you can tell me that there's like spaghetti on your wall or something.
yeah.
So, oh, did we lose you?
Oh, wait,
Oh,
can
did
you
we
hear me?
lose you there? Yep, I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. I must have muted on accident.
Okay, no
Um,
problem.
but yeah, and so they said it was for, like I said, property left behind, which again was trash in the
Normal
trash
stuff you'd
cans.
ask for. Yeah.
Exactly. And the normal things that you would ask for.
Mhm.
And then they said also because there was the carpets were dirty, or didn't, there was the carpets were dirty, which again, they had specifically said we did not need to clean
Yeah,
the
don't worry about it.
yeah. And so, again, I was at work getting these phone calls the day of closing, incredibly stressed that we were going to be $5,000, short now.
Hmm.
And they were incredibly difficult to get a hold of. They were not returning calls. We were trying to clarify what
Shocking.
happened. Exactly. And then when we finally did get a hold of them, explaining, I was able to send an email saying, here's like what, or, here's an email from you guys saying what that we were okay not getting the carpets clean, that we were okay to leave, again, like those things behind.
Yeah.
We forwarded that. I never heard back from the iBuyer, but then their title company called my realtor and said they've cleared me to release the entire thing. So they gave us our
Wow.
$5,000 back.
So that to me
So
seems
they're
like that was just an extra little nudge to like extract a little bit more money, poke you again, basically,
exactly,
because since
exactly.
they let off so easily.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. No, no, you're totally fine. This is fine. And we're almost done. I've actually, and it sounds like you're busy and need to go too. I've got one last question for you. And that's just, I mean, I know situationally this can be a little bit different of an answer, but would you consider, I mean, if you're in this position again, do you see yourself contacting an iBuyer again? Or do you kind of think that you might look at different tactics that you can do in like a traditional method looking back?
Having gone through everything that we went through, I and how much money I actually walked away with. I think that if I was in this position again, I would have lowered the price of our house more significantly and tried to
And
sell
done
it
it
the traditional
traditionally and
route.
kind of
Yeah.
negotiated. Well, because I got to
Yeah.
say, I mean, I've been doing this, at the time of recording this, I think I'm in my 16th year now, and we've been doing this for a long time. And of course, we always have the conversations about, how much services cost and that it is, it's not the cheapest thing out there. And there is value in our services 100%. And clearly in here, you've mentioned a couple of items that we can prove the value right there, such as the easiest one of communication. But we're also not walking away with 12%, upwards of 12%, 12%, we'll say. So I would have to agree with that decision if I was in that place. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if you needed an offer today and close in 3 weeks, and if you needed a very certain situation and you were in a good place with your home equity, I mean, sure, I could maybe see where it's just kind of like, okay, pay to make it go away. But interesting. Okay, well, thanks for sharing
Yeah.
all that, and we'd yeah, love to have you on here. Thank you very much,
Of
and
course.
yeah, good luck with everybody that's at the house now needing all of your
Yes.
attention.
Clearly.
Go let all the
Yes.
dogs out and go
Oh,
be with the
and the
kids.
children.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Well,
Well,
great. Well,
wonderful.
awesome. Well, yeah, thanks again, and we will chat with you soon.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Yep. Bye.
So thanks again for watching. This interview came from some inquiries that we had from clients about iBuyers, and so when we reached out, we did find out that we did know somebody that just went through this. So if there's any topics or anything that you would ever be interested in us covering or shedding some more light on, please feel free to reach out to any of us here at St. Vrain Realty. Thanks for watching.